This video demonstrates how to add a simple bar chart to an Excel workbook using the Python library OpenPyXL. Here is our testing workbook that we will be working with. It contains 2 columns of data, 5 rows of names and scores. Let's start off with loading in the workbook as WB and then selecting the worksheet I just displayed as WS. I will then be saving the work in the cell below. To create bar charts, I need to use the bar chart and reference objects contained in the chart module of OpenPyXL, so I will import them right now. The bar chart object is fairly self-explanatory. It's what contains the chart. The reference object, on the other hand, needs some explaining. Each chart in Excel references a series of data. The way that OpenPyXL captures what data exists within the chart is with this reference object. So let's start off by creating both our bar chart and reference variables. Making our bar chart variable is easy. Simply assign the variable you want to use to the object. I'm calling my bar chart variable chart. The reference object requires some arguments and looks a little complicated at first glance. However, it's actually quite straightforward. To the reference object, the first argument we must pass is the worksheet itself. The next arguments are min col, min row, and max row. We need to supply the minimum column of the data, which is the leftmost side of the data table we want graphed. For our case, that is just the second column of data in the workbook, so I will supply 2 as the min col. Min row is the minimum row where the data starts, and max row is where it ends. As you can see, we supply 1 and 6 respectively. There is also the max col argument that we can assign, but given our data comprises only 1 column, we don't need to use that argument here. I need to also create the x-axis labels. This is done with another reference object. The reference object is pointing to the literal location of where my labels are in my workbook. We can see that the labels are in rows 2 through 6 in the first column, column A. So I pass 1 as my min col argument, 2 as my min row argument, and 6 as the max row argument. Next, I would like to add some clarity to my chart by adding titles to the graph and the axes. That is accomplished with using the chart's title attribute. The X and Y attributes also have title attributes, as you can see here. To give them a title, you simply assign these attributes a string of text. Now that I have my chart ready, I need to add the data. This is accomplished with the add data function of the chart object. The first argument for this function is the reference object of where the data is located. This will populate the plotting area of the chart with the columns specified in my reference object. I next tell Python that the title can be derived from my data. This is because my data had a column header called score. If you look back at the reference object, you will see that I said the min row is 1, which means I am supplying the first row with the rest of the data. Setting titles from data allows the code to know the first row should not be considered part of the graphed data. Notice that I am not using the other reference object that I created right now, the one that is called x-axis labels. I will be adding that with another function next. With our chart object created, I can now add it to the workbook. This is done by using the add chart function on my worksheet object. I pass the add chart function the chart itself and the location I would like the chart to display. For this, I'll use D2. The left topmost portion of my chart will now appear in cell D2. And finally, I need to tell Excel to set the categories I created earlier. The categories are the x-axis labels I created with my x-axis labels variable. I am able to establish these with the set categories function on the chart object. With this, let me save the workbook and reopen the document to check the work. We can now see the chart displaying in the correct location in our workbook. So it requires a handful of steps, but it's fairly straightforward to implement a bar chart using Python. First, you import your objects from the library. Next, create your chart and reference objects supplying the appropriate data to those reference objects. Next, you add the data and add some titles if you wish to do so. Then you add the chart to the worksheet and specify where the categories are in the workbook. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please let me know in the comments if this was a helpful video. Let me know what other features of OpenPyXL and Python you would like to see reviewed in future videos. Hit thumbs up if you found this video useful, and please don't forget to subscribe so you can know when the next video releases.